Hello, it is April 2nd and my mountain life, I'm back again. I received some pretty good comments on some things that I thought I would discuss. Kind of interesting to me, but one of the things that the gentleman talked about was deer, and he basically said that he lets the deer eat the trees up to about 6 foot, and they don't bother anything beyond that, so they just kind of go about their own business after that. So he effectively allows them to be kind of a pruning machine for them, and I think that's great. It works for him where he lives, and I don't want to suggest that my deer are smarter than that. I don't know. But my experience is different, and I'm not saying that his experience is wrong. It's just that perhaps the deer in his area have more to eat. I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning for the differences between white-tailed deer from one place to another would be. But I have to put up a fence, or I have to put up a cage around the tree, because my experience in the past has been that the deer, and this is a true, honest story, the deer came to one of my trees because I tried the same thing this gentleman did. I just thought, you know what, the tree's tall enough, they'll just eat up to a certain level and then they'll go away. But they didn't. They jumped on the tree, or one did, and bent it down, trying to get the branches on the top, and by doing this, it snapped it at the graft. And so I literally had a tree, when I came home, lying on the ground, snapped at the graft, and the leaves were eaten. So I don't know if it was one deer or multiple deers that are like, hey, let's get together and do this. But I talked to somebody else in the local area, and they said, oh yeah, the deer here, they might be used to eating choke cherries or some other like elderberries or something around here, I don't know. And they're used to, they teach their young, or I don't know, but they're used to getting on these shrubs or these small trees and bending them over to eat what's on the top. And so I can't do what this gentleman was saying, and it works for him and he doesn't have a problem, so that's it's great. But I have to actually put up a deer fence, either a fence like this, or I have to cage him in like I did with some of my other trees when I first started out. But here's the thing, and it'll lead on to the other subject that he talked about in his comment, and that is, wherever you live, you have a lot of different factors on what can affect you, what diseases affect you, what kind of pest problems you might have, what kind of things you need to do to counteract some of the problems that you have in the orchard. My understanding from reading a large number of comments from people on some of the forums is that back east, they have problems with black knot and brown rot and things like that, because they have high humidity in Pennsylvania or New York or wherever. They have high humidity, they get quite a bit of moisture, and those funguses, including the big bad one, fire blight, that people are afraid of, they get those there, and they get them often. And I read about these people talking about all the things they do. They spray, or they go in and they use a torch to burn the black knot, or they actually cut it out and then get rid of that portion of the tree. And sometimes they take out entire trees if they get fire blight or whatever else in it. That's what I read about people in the east having to deal with all these issues. And here I am in the mountain states, and we don't have a lot of humidity. It's dry, which probably brings some other issues or problems, but it's dry, and I don't think I've seen black knot here. Not that it doesn't exist, not that it isn't in the forests, or it exists out there. And I haven't seen brown rot, and I know fire blight exists in our area. I've read about it from our state, our universities and stuff in our state, but I have never experienced it. I've never seen it. And what my understanding is, a lot of these fungal problems are they're really more prevalent, and they happen more often in places with higher humidity. And so that's just an example of one place that deals with disease issues that I'm not really that particularly worried about. Not that it won't come, not that it hasn't been here. Maybe if we have a really wet year, it'll surface, and it will, I won't be prepared for it, and I'll be like on the forums trying to understand what the people back east do about it. But for right now, I have completely different experiences with orcharding than somebody maybe in Pennsylvania or New York. Not completely, but there are some differences. And then the next comment that he talked about was the Asian plums, and that the frost will get them. Now, I took what he said, and I'm like, you're right. I was worried about my Asian plums. Like, we might get like a week or two of really warm weather in March, and then boom, I know I'm going to have a snowstorm in April. It happens almost all the time, or the end of March or something. And yeah, my trees will bloom out, and then I got to deal, I don't get any fruit that year off of my Asian plums in particular. Well, so I read some forums, and I found something kind of interesting. I read some people's from Tennessee, which is like 2 zones warmer than where I am. And they have problems with trying to grow Asian plums, because they say that the Asian plums will, they'll bloom out in like February, and then they'll have these like, nighttime cold streaks that'll be below 20 degrees or something, and then they don't get any fruit. And so they say it's really difficult for them to grow, at least by some of these forums, difficult for them to grow Asian plums. Now, what happens here? And do I have to worry about frost? I actually don't really have to worry about frost hardly at all. I have to worry about a warm spell hitting my area that will take the trees out of dormancy. That's at least my experience or my thoughts. And so if I get 2 weeks of warm weather in this month of March, that's like a nightmare for me, because I know that I'm going to have a snowstorm. It's going to get below 10 degrees pretty easily at some point between like the end of March and the end of April. It's going to happen, right? And so I study a little bit more on like what these Asian plums need for their blooming and things. And if they put out their, like, I don't remember which university had it, but there's a number of them that actually have this, and they've studied it. And that is, when the blooms reach a certain point, then you don't want your temperatures to drop below a certain point. So I think 28 degrees is like the magical number Fahrenheit, 28 degrees Fahrenheit. And then if they bloom, or I don't remember exactly, like there's another one too, there's like 25 degrees. They can be more resistant to frost if it stays above 25 or above 28, depending on the development of the flowers. And then it basically said, if it drops below that, then how much of the crop you're going to lose. And it said something like, I think it's below 28, you'll probably lose 10%. If it drops below 25, you'll lose 90%. That's my understanding of the studies that they did at this university, and I don't want to quote it because I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I just did all this reading to try to understand why Asian plums are a problem for some people in some areas. And it surprised me, because Tennessee is warmer than where I live, and they have a difficult time, at least from what I understand in the forums, of raising Asian plums. Other people, maybe a little bit further north where it's colder, they get their Asian plum crops. Why is that? Well, I think it's because down south, they're getting their blooms in February, and then they're getting these freezes in March. And up north, nothing's blooming in February where I live. In fact, nothing's yet blooming in its April. So it's April 2nd, and I don't have one bloom on anything in my orchard, not one. And so the trees are staying in dormancy longer, and it takes a little while for the how the sun moves up through, or not the sun, but how the earth tilts or whatever, and it takes a little bit longer. And so I think it's actually, there's a lot more fluctuation in the temperatures in Tennessee from February to March or April than it is here. A much wider fluctuation of temperatures. And so they have problems growing their Asian plums. Me, the best example I can give is at least the hybrid that I have, which is the black ice. I've never had a problem with that tree producing fruit, like from one year to another. It's never had a problem with frost. It could be because it has some resistance to frost, I don't know, but I don't have, I've never had a problem with that one. Other trees I do, like the toka I was talking about in some of my other videos, but I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if it's because of frost or if it's some other reason. And so this year I made out an Excel worksheet, and I put down all the trees that I have, and I put down on one column when they started their bloom, when they ended their bloom, and then how many fruits did I get off the tree. And then I also put on another column disease pressure and pest pressure as well. And I'm just going to do an observation. It's not truly scientific because I don't know if I'm going to be out every single day to look at everything. But it's scientific enough, I think, where I can get a feel, because this gentleman who posted on my comments, I really do appreciate it, because now it spurred me to do more research. I'm not trying to debate him or say he's wrong. I'm trying to learn. And so when he brought these things up, I was trying to figure out, where did this all come from? What kind of world does he live in? And I'm not meaning that sarcastically, but what kind of area in the country does he live in with the climate and everything else? And what kind of climate do I live in? And so the things that he runs into for problems, I may not run into. The things that I might run into as problems, he may not run into. For example, the deer. He doesn't have to worry about the deer knocking his trees down and eating the tops of them and breaking them off at the graft, which I have to worry about. So everybody's different. Everybody, even 5 miles away from me, people have some different experiences that I do. Now, we all have some general common things, but we also have some differences. Anyway, I just wanted to post this video just to kind of be a learning thing for like everybody, that I could talk about. If I lived in California, I could talk about how easy it is to grow Asian plums, and then how crazy somebody in Pennsylvania is telling me, or Tennessee in my example earlier, somebody in Tennessee telling me they can't get any crops off their Asian plums. And I could be telling them, I'm from California and maybe you just don't know what you're doing. That's not really what it's all about. There's so many different factors in running or having an orchard, running a garden, whatever, planting your garden. And there's so many different factors: humidity, pests, climate, when you start getting above 40 degrees at night. I mean, there's so many different factors from one place to another, even within the same local areas, that I just find it fascinating to discuss with people. So thank you very much for your comment. It spurred me to do some research and to find out more information. And I feel bad for the people in Tennessee, because you're in a nice warm place, and yet because of the way that your climate works, you have difficulty growing Asian plums because they a lot of times get hit with frost. And me, a person further north, doesn't really have a problem with growing Asian plums, and I don't have to worry too much about frost, unless, like I said, I get a warm spell at a weird time of the year. Like I said, March. March is like the worst month. If I get a warm spell in March, I'm like looking at my trees going, oh no, they're gonna leaf out, they're gonna start throwing their blooms out, and I know that it's gonna just be ruined. So for me, I would rather it be colder longer until like mid-April, and then boom, our normal year is we start rapidly going up to being above 40 degrees at night, like for the rest of the year, and we don't really have too many frosts. It's not unheard of though. We've had Junes with snow. So things can happen. It's not like it living up here in the north has any like protections guaranteed. There's always chances that things are going to go kind of a little wacky, a little strange. But I would say maybe that happens about every 15 years. So it's not a common thing. All right, what I'm doing today is I'm finishing out this orchard because I have more trees arriving that I have to get into the ground as soon as they get here. They're all bare root. Most of them are from Rain Tree Nursery, which is out of the state of Washington. And so I got to get these posts into the ground so then I can get my fence up. I don't necessarily have to get the gate in right this second, but I need to get this stuff done. I already know one order's on the way. I know another one's being prepped to arrive. And so I want to have everything prepared for them so that the deer aren't eating them. And I don't have to put up these little fences. I'd rather just go in and dig. I have to do this anyway. So I'm taking a nice warm day to do it. And I thought I'd just push a post down for you to end the video so you can see kind of what things are looking like now. Maybe you can see some of the foliage behind me, which is just Douglas fir, I think, and maybe some spruce. And there's no leaves on any of the cottonwoods yet or anything. Everything holds on until about the second week of April, approximately, like the 10th of April to the 14th. And then leaves and blooms will start happening all over the area. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and pound this, and then we'll end it because this is pretty boring to watch. But this is a 10-foot post, and deer, my understanding from reading about them and talking to the people who sell fencing around here, they tell me that deer can actually jump 7'6". Now, I can't say I've ever seen that, but that's what they tell me, that's their possible range. And so you want to go to about 8 foot, or no, wait, they can't jump 7'6". They can jump just below that, I think is what they told me. But we just put an 8-foot fence in, and that stops them from even trying anything. Amazingly enough, I've also heard stories of moose being able to jump incredibly high. Like you wouldn't even imagine a moose being able to jump as high as it can. But I've heard stories of some of my friends that were in Alaska and places like that, and they would tell me, oh yeah, they can jump really, really high when they want to, when they need to. So, I gotta get this right side around here. I just basically get this down to about my nose level. Like that, about right there. That's about good. The ground here is very good, actually. I mean, it's right around these trees, but the ground is soft and loamy. So this is a good. I wish I could plant my orchard right here instead of planting it over in the heavy clay, which is, I don't know how long it's been cleared of trees and just developed into heavy clay. I don't know, but all this around here is loamy. So whatever trees I can get out here, at least their roots are going to be happy. I don't know about the shade that they're going to probably face, but I'll talk about that at a different time if I can get my neighbor's permission, because oh my gosh, he's growing his orchard in a place that is essentially like shaded, like, I don't know, probably it only gets sun for maybe 4 hours a day, and his trees are just phenomenal. They produce phenomenally. I don't know about all of them, but I know at least his apples do. So some fruit trees, you know, they tell you, well, it needs full sun. You know, again, when we're talking about comments that you hear, you read, that might be a general concept. It needs full sun. But it may be in a particular area, environment, it actually might be beneficial for it to only get 6 hours of sun or 4 hours of sun. Especially if, you know, maybe if you're in a climate that has your higher altitude or latitude with the thinner atmosphere. I don't know. There's so many different factors in there. It's just kind of hard to think that somebody in Florida their tree can get this, would need the same amount of sun that your tree would need. I would think there would be some differences. Of course, you can't grow everything in Florida that you can grow here, but you get my point. So that is the end of the video. And like I said, I'll be working on this for the rest of the evening, and then try to get some wire up here and stop the deer from coming in here. And I'll dig some holes if I have time, and I'll work until the sun goes down. And then my wife wants me to do stuff in the house too, so I want to do that, help her out with that. But for now, I'm going to prioritize this, get this done, so that I can get those trees when they arrive in the ground. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll talk to you the next time, My Mountain Life.